Hello, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ. This is Shiny with Jesus Bytes. Welcome back on a journey of exploring the Bible together. We will continue with the book of Joshua, covering chapters 16 through 20 today. Joseph's inheritance, chapter 16. The allotment for the descendants of Joseph went from the Jordan at Jericho to the waters of Jericho on the east, through the wilderness ascending from Jericho into the hill country of Bethel. From Bethel it went to Luz and proceeded to the border of the Archites by Ataroth. It then descended westward to the border of the Japhalites as far as the border of Lower Bethhoron, then to Gezer, and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. So Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, received their inheritance. Ephraim's inheritance. This was the territory of the descendants of Ephraim by their clans. The border of the inheritance went from Ataroth Adar on the east of Upper Beth-horon. In the north the border went westward from Mikmetha. It turned eastward from Tanah and passed it east of Genoa. From Genoa it descended to Ataroth and Nara, and then reached Jericho and went to the Jordan. From Tappuah the border went westward along the brook of Kana and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the descendants of Ephraim by their clans, together with the cities set apart for the descendants of Ephraim, within the inheritance of the descendants of Manasseh, all these cities with their villages. But they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in Gezer. So the Canaanites lived in Ephraim to this day, but they are forced laborers. West Manasseh's inheritance, chapter 17. This was the allotment for the tribe of Manasseh at Joseph's firstborn. Gilead and Bashan came to Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh and the father of Gilead, who was a man of war. So the allotment was for the rest of Manasseh's descendants by their clans. For the sons of Abiezer, Helek, Azriel, Shechem, Hepher, and Shemida, these are the male descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph, by their clans. Now Zelophehad, son of Hepher, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons, only daughters. These are the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They came before Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders, saying, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our male relatives." So they gave them an inheritance among their father's brothers, in keeping with the Lord's instruction. As a result, 10 tracts fell to Manasseh, besides the land of Gilead and Bashan, which are beyond the Jordan, because Manasseh's daughters received an inheritance among his sons. The land of Gilead belonged to the rest of Manasseh's sons. The border of Manasseh went from Asher to Mikmetha near Shechem. It then went southward toward the inhabitants of Tappuah. The region of Tappuah belonged to Manasseh, but Tappuah itself on Manasseh's border belonged to the descendants of Ephraim. From there the border descended to the brook of Kana, south of the brook. Cities belonged to Ephraim among Manasseh's cities. Manasseh's border was on the north side of the brook and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. Ephraim's territory was to the south and Manasseh's to the north, with the sea as its border. They reached Asher on the north and Issachar on the east. Within Issachar and Asher, Manasseh and Bethshan with its towns, Ephraim with its towns, and the inhabitants of Dor with its towns, the inhabitants of Endor with its towns, the inhabitants of Tanakh with its towns, and the inhabitants of Megiddo with its towns, and 3 cities of Naphtali. The descendants of Manasseh could not possess these cities because the Canaanites were determined to stay in this land. However, when the Israelites grew stronger, they imposed forced labor on the Canaanites, but did not drive them out completely. Joseph's additional inheritance. Joseph's descendants said to Joshua, "Why did you give us only one tribal allotment as an inheritance? We have many people, because the Lord has greatly blessed us." "If you have so many people," Joshua replied to them, "go to the forest and clear an area for yourselves there in the land of the Perizzites and Rephaim, because Ephraim's hill country is too small for you." But the descendants of Joseph said, "The hill country is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites who inhabit the valley area have iron chariots, both at Bethshan with its towns and in Jezreel valley." So Joshua replied to Joseph's family, that is Ephraim and Manasseh, "You have many people and great strength. You will not have just one lot, because the hill country will be yours too. It is a forest, clear it, and its outlying areas will be yours. You can also drive out the Canaanites, even though they have iron chariots and are strong." Land distribution of Shiloh. Chapter 18. The entire Israelite community assembled at Shiloh, where it is set up an tent of meeting there. The land had been subdued by them. 7 tribes among the Israelites were left who had not divided up their inheritance. So Joshua said to the Israelites, "How long will you delay going out to take possession of the land that your Lord, the God of your fathers, gave you? Appoint for yourselves 3 men from each tribe, and I will send them out. They are to go and survey the land, write a description of it for the purpose of their inheritance, and return to me. Then they are to divide it into 7 portions. Judah is to remain in its territory in the south, and Joseph's family in their territory in the north. When you have written a description of the 7 portions of land and brought it to me, I will cast lots for you here in the presence of the Lord our God. But the Levites among you do not get a portion, because their inheritance is the priesthood of the Lord. Gad, Reuben, and half of the tribe of Manasseh have taken their inheritance beyond the Jordan to the east, which Moses, the Lord's servant, gave them." As the men prepared to go, Joshua commanded them to write down a description of the land, saying, Go and survey the land, write a description of it, and return to me. I will then cast lots for you here in Shiloh in the presence of the Lord. So the men left, went throughout the land, and described it by towns in a document of 7 sections. They returned to Joshua at the camp in Shiloh. Joshua cast lots for them at Shiloh in the presence of the Lord, where he distributed the land to the Israelites according to their divisions. Benjamin's inheritance. The lot came up for the tribe of Benjamin's descendants by their clans, and their allotted territory lay between Judah's descendants and Joseph's descendants. Their border on the north side began at Jordan, ascended to the slope of Jericho on the north, through the hill country westward, and ended at the wilderness of Beth-haven. From there the border went toward Luz, to the southern slope of Luz, that is Bethel. It then went down to Ataroth Adar, over the hill south of Lower Beth-horon. On the west side, from the hill facing Beth-horon, on the south, the border curved, turning southward, and ended at Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Jearim, a city of the descendants of Judah. This was the west side of their border. The south side began at the edge of Kiriath Jearim, and the border extended westward. It went up to the spring at the waters of Naphtali. The border descended to the foot of the hill that faces the valley of Hinnom, at the northern end of the valley of Rephaim. It ran down the valley of Hinnom toward the south Jebusite slope and downward to En-rogel. It curved northward and went to En-shemesh and on to Gelialoth, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim, and continued down to the stone of Bohan, Reuben's son. Then it went north to the slope opposite to the Jordan Valley, and proceeded into the valley. The border continued to the north, slope of Beth-hogla, and ended at the northern bay of the Dead Sea, at the southern end of the Jordan. This was the southern border. The Jordan formed the border on the east side. This was the inheritance of Benjamin's descendants by their clans, according to its surrounding borders. Benjamin's cities. These were the cities of the tribe of Benjamin's descendants by their clans: Jericho, Beth-hogla, Emek-keziz, Beth-araba, Jemaram, Bethel, Avim, Para, Oprah, Shephar-ammoni, Ophni, and Geba, 12 cities with their villages: Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpeh, Shephirah, Moza, Rakem, Irpeel, Tarla, Zelah, Haleb, Jebus, that is Jerusalem, Gibeah, and Kiriath, 14 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of Benjamin's descendants by their clans. Simeon's inheritance. Chapter 19. The second lot came out for Simeon, for the tribe of his descendants by their clans, but their inheritance was within the portion of Judah's descendants. Their inheritance included Beersheba or Sheba, Moladah, Hazar-Shual, Bala, Ezem, Eltolad, Bethul, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Marakaboth, Hazar-Suasas, Beth Lebaoth, and Sharuan, 13 cities with their villages, Ain, Rimmon, Ether, and Ashan, 4 cities with their villages, and all the villages surrounding these cities as far as Baalath-beer, Ramah of the south. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Simeon's descendants by their clans. The inheritance of Simeon's descendants was within the territory of Judah's descendants, because the share for Judah's descendants was too large for them. So Simeon's descendants received an inheritance within Judah's portion. Zebulun's inheritance. The third lot came up for Zebulun's descendants by their clans. The territory of their inheritance stretched as far as Sarid. Their border went up westward to Maralah, reached Dabasheth, and met the brook east of Jokneam. From Sarid, it took east toward the sunrise along the border of Chisloth Tabor, went to Dabarath, and went to Zephia. From there it went east toward the sunrise to Gath-Hepher and to Eth-Kazin. It extended to Rimmon, curving around to Neah. The border then circled around Neah on the north of Hanathon and ended at the valley of Iphthal, along with Katad, Nahalal, Shimron, Idalah, and Bethlehem, 12 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of Zebulun's descendants by their clans, these cities with their villages. Issachar's inheritance. The fourth lot came out for the tribe of Issachar's descendants by their clans. Their territory went to Jezreel and included Jeshuloth, Shunem, Ephraim, Shion, Anaharath, Rabith, Kishion, Ebez, Rameth, En-Ganim, En-Haddah, Beth-Pazzez. The border reached Tabor, Shahazumah, and Beth-Shemesh, and ended at the Jordan, 16 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Issachar's descendants by their clans, the cities with their villages. Asher's inheritance. The fifth lot came out for the tribe of Asher's descendants by their clans. Their boundary included Helkath, Hali, Beten, Ashkafah, Alamelech, Amad, and Mishal, and reached westward to Carmel and Shihor-Libnath. It turned eastward to Beth-Dagon, past Zebulun and the valley of Iphthal, north toward Beth-Emek and Neiel, and went north to Kabul, Ebron, Rehob, Hammon, and Cana as far as Great Sidon. The boundary then turned to Ramah as far as the fortified city of Tyre. It turned back to Hosea and ended at the sea, including Mahalab, Akzib, Umah, Aphek, and Rehob, 22 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Asher's descendants by their clans, these cities with their villages. Naphtali's inheritance. The sixth lot came out for Naphtali's descendants by their clans. Their boundary went from Heleph and from the oak in Zananim, including Adami-Nekeb and Zebneel, as far as Lakum, and ended at the Jordan. To the west, the boundary turned to Aznoth Tabor, and went from there to Hukok, reaching Zebulun on the south, Asher on the west, and Judah at the Jordan on the east. The fortified cities were Ziddim, Zer, Hamath, Rakat, Shinnereth, Adamah, Ramah, Hazor, Kadesh, Edrei, and Hazor, Aram, Migdal-el, Horem, Bethanath, and Bethshemesh, 19 cities with their villages. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Naphtali's descendants by their clans, the cities with their villages. Dan's inheritance. The seventh Lord came out for the Danite tribe by its clans. The territory of their inheritance included Zorah, Eshtaol, Irshemesh, Zalabin, Ajalon, Itla, Elon, Timnah, Ekron, Elkeh, Gibbethon, Baalat, Jehud, Beneberak, Gathrimon, Megjarkon, and Rakon, with the territory facing Joppa. When the territory of the Danites slipped out of their control, they went up and fought against Leshem, captured it, and struck it down with a sword. So they took possession of it, lived there, and renamed Leshem after their ancestor Dan. This was the inheritance of the Danite tribe by its clans, these cities with their villages. Joshua's inheritance. When they had finished distributing the land into their territories, the Israelite gave Joshua son of Nun an inheritance among them. By the Lord's command, they gave him the city of Timnath-Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, which he requested. He rebuilt the city and lived in it. These were the portions that Eleazar, the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the families distributed to the Israelite tribes by lot at Shiloh in the Lord's presence at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So they finished dividing up the land. Cities of Refuge, Chapter 20. Then the Lord spoke to Joshua, "Tell the Israelites, select your cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses, so that a person who kills someone unintentionally or accidentally may flee there. These will be your refuge from the avenger of blood. When someone flees to one of these cities, stands at the entrance of the city gate, and states his case before the elders of the city, they are to bring him into the city and give him a place to live among them. And if the avenger of blood pursues him, they must not hand the one who committed manslaughter over to him, for he killed his neighbor accidentally and did not hate him beforehand. He is to stay in that city until he stands trial before the assembly, and until the death of the high priest serving at that time. Then the one who committed manslaughter may return home to his own city from which he fled." So they designated Kadesh in the hill country of Naphtali in Galilee, Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah, across the Jordan east of Jericho. They selected Bezer, on the wilderness plateau from Reuben's tribe, Ramoth in Gilead from Gad's tribe, and Golan in Bashan from Manasseh's tribe. These are the cities appointed for all the Israelites and foreigners among them, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there and not die at the hand of the avenger of blood until he stands before the assembly. The word of the Lord. Have a blessed day. Ciao.